Welcome, History Heroes, to Richard the Lionheart of Saladin, Unit 11, Lesson 2. Today we're going to review information from previous lessons, like we always do. Describe Saladin as the leader of the Muslims during some of the Crusades, not all of them, but some. Explain that King Richard I of England was lion-hearted because of his great leadership and bravery during some of the Crusades as well. And explain that King Richard I and Saladin led armies against each other during some of the Crusades and then later made a truce, which is a way of making a deal with someone. Now, we're going to review why were Palestine and Jerusalem important to the Jews, Christians, and Muslims? Well, they were holy places for their religions, and they all wanted control so that their citizens could go there and worship as they pleased. Why were the Crusaders fighting the Muslims in Palestine? Again, they wanted the Christians to rule Palestine to take back the Holy Land from the Muslims who had gained control of it. Who sent the Crusaders to Palestine to take back the Holy Land? And that should be Holy, not Holey land. The Pope did, of course. He was the ruler of the Christian church. And we call the folks that went to war to battle those crusades and fight for that Holy Land crusaders. And that word means cross. So that's what they wore on their uniforms, which is at the bottom of the questions. Who is he and why was he important? Speaking of the Pope was, like I said, the ruler of the Christian church. And again, the Crusaders wore crosses on their clothes because they felt that this was a religious war and they wanted to represent Christ in their battle as they fought. Now, not all crusaders were knights in armor or rich nobles. Others that fought in the Crusades, serfs came out of the farms and the fields. Craftsmen came to possibly, put shoes on the horses' feet so they could run more properly, create weapons, assist in any way that they could, and they even included going into battle. Priests went into battle. They sure did, because this was a religious war and they felt like they needed to fight for their religion. Women came out and supported the war as well. They didn't really go into battle, but they would support those injured soldiers and assist them in any way they could, from resupplying them with materials and supplies, and also, helping them when they were hurt or injured. And kings and queens came out as well and led battles, if you can believe it. They designed strategies, went into war, and actually led, led groups of soldiers into battle. And the Crusaders won the first battle. The Christian Crusaders won the first battle, won control of Palestine and Jerusalem, and controlled it for many years. But along came Saladin, a Muslim boy, and this is a picture of a little Muslim boy that was very religious and knew how important the Holy Land was to the Muslims. He did not want the Christians controlling it. He wanted it back for his religion, which was Islam. Saladin became a soldier at 14. He worked hard. He studied the Quran, and at 14 he became a soldier, and he eventually ruled the entire country of Egypt, which is right down here on the bottom. He wanted the Holy Land back, and here is the Holy Land, which is Palestine, and there's Jerusalem right there. And if you wanted to travel from Egypt to Palestine, now think about it. First you would go north, then you would go east, and so we would say that Egypt and Palestine is northeast of Egypt. North and then east. Northeast. Now, the Crusades went on for many years and years, with both sides winning. They would take turns winning. While Saladin was fighting these wars, a young man was growing up in France, and he was preparing to also become a great crusader. His name was Richard. And this is Palestine, where they're battling over continuously. King Richard was from Aquitaine, near the Pyrenees Mountains. He studied and worked very hard to follow behind his father, King Henry of England. He became known as Richard the Lionheart because he was such a fierce and brave soldier. He was a king, but he was right there leading his men into battle the entire time. He was known for being a great leader, very well respected by all, including his archenemy Saladin. And he fought in a crusade against Saladin for over a year, battled and battled, before they declared a truce, which was an agreement on both sides to stop fighting. Legend says that Saladin even brought King Richard I a horse during battle so that he didn't have to fight on foot. Apparently, he was in a battle and his horse was killed or hurt to where he wasn't on his horse anymore. And Saladin said he's too noble to be fighting on foot. So he had his attendants during the war during the battle bring him a horse so that he would have a horse to continue the fighting with, ride it while he fought. The Christians got Palestine along the coast. That's when, in the truce, the Christians got Palestine along the coast, which means along the water area, and the Muslims got the inland area, which means away from the water, including Jerusalem. But the Christians could still visit there as well as pray and worship as they pleased. So they developed what's called a truce, which means they met each other halfway. No one won that battle, that crusade. But they did meet each other halfway so that everyone was somewhat settled for a little while. But the Crusades did not end with the truce. The truce lasted for a while, but then battle started again. There were 8 battles or crusades over almost 200 years. This area is still occupied by the Muslims today and is still fought over regularly. And if you have a minute, ask your learning coach to pull it up on a map today and see and find out some things on the news about it. I'd rather you do that with your learning coach because there's a lot going on over there still today. But it's very interesting to know that this is where it started. The good part of the Crusades, there were good things. The Crusaders brought lots of scientific knowledge, medicines, and books that they discovered in Palestine back to Europe, as well as things like lemons, sugar, rice, apricots, and fine cotton cloth, so that trading became more and more active and encouraged more exploration into other unknown territories by making folks curious. They thought, gosh, if we went to Palestine and Jerusalem and we were able to discover lemons and sugar and rice and these beautiful fine cloths of cotton, then there may be other things out there to find. So they started exploring more and more. And again, they also discovered great things about science and medicines and different books that the Muslims had written to gain more information and more knowledge and just learn and learn and learn. Finally, the word crusader is still used today. We often use the word crusader. You may even hear it sometimes because it's defined. We use crusader to describe anyone who fights for something he or she believes in. Now, it is usually a religious war, and that is what is still going on today in the Palestine area. Is religious wars. They've been going on for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So ask your learning coach to look into that a little more and take a learning adventure. Now, we're going to review who is the lion-hearted warrior king from England who fought in a crusade against Saladin, the Muslim leader. That was King Richard I. And he was the lion, and I answered it in a complete sentence. King Richard I was the lion-hearted king. Who was the leader of the Muslim armies during some of the Crusades? Saladin was the leader of the Muslims. And the next one, what did King Richard I and Saladin do to stop the fighting for a while? Well, they made a truce after fighting for over a year and divided the land. And the last one, why did Richard and Saladin fight? Why did they fight? Well, they wanted their kingdom to rule and their religion to rule the Holy Land. They wanted to be they wanted the Holy Land to be in their country's possession or their kingdom's possession. And so that's why they fought and fought. Now, when you come to class today, what we're going to do, I'm going to go over this with you actually. I will cover this with you in class so you can. We're going to do a writing activity. We're going to do breakout rooms, and here's our writing page. And I want to make sure you come to class, but if you don't make it, be sure to complete this lesson in the OLS and take the assessment. It's Unit 11, Lesson 2. The code word is Crusader, and the survey link is right here. It's tinyurl.com/LavkaK7 Class Connect Survey. Now, this is only for the students who watch the recording, so I hope you can make it.